You could spend 20 minutes on a drawing, post it online, and get a mountain of praise. Or you could spend months or even years working on an indie game, release it, and get ripped apart in the reviews. That's just the nature of the industry. Every frame of an indie game is an expression of these indie developers.
I'm really excited to be interviewing a person named Nic Stokell, who is an indie developer. He's got a really cool itch page, and he lives on the entire other side of the world, so this is pretty crazy. So Nick, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I was jumping in and about to get ready to correct you on my last name, but you got it, so I don't need to. I get Stockel a lot. Hi, but Stokell is the correct pronunciation, so well done. Um, Hi, I'm Nic Stokell. I am a support worker studying enrolled nursing who is a game dev on the weekends occasionally. I spend most of my time, my free time, working on game development, and I've, really been diving headfirst into it for the past 2 years. Um, Before that, I was really interested in pixel art, and I've been doing that since I was 14. So, interestingly, I was doing pixel art long before I was doing actual proper game dev. But yeah, recently is when I've been really jumping into my development journey, I guess.
Support worker, studying to be an
Enrolled
what is
nurse.
that, in
So it's there's
enrolled nurse?
yeah, so there's enrolled nurse, registered nurse, nurse practitioner, midwifery. So it's it's a step below registered nurse.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I mean, not to drive too much into that, but it's interesting to go from that to indie game dev pixel art passion. So I think that that's pretty cool
I
to hear.
I
That these two sides of things.
I think it's important to state that this is not something I do as a job. This is something that is purely a hobby. With the amount of money I've made from my game dev, I have enough to afford free samples. Like to highlight that this is something that I'm doing in my spare time.
Yeah, totally. How many games did you say that you have on itch? I got your page pulled up right now, but just out of your mouth, how many? And I mean, I guess how many games have you done in total as an indie developer?
Um, my very first game was a little game called 10 Rooms. I made that when I was 15. It was not on
Cool.
itch, it is on Scratch, MIT Scratch. Um, it's a little
Mm,
block based programming language. So that's one. My
mm,
second proper game that I made, I've started many projects. So the first one I actually properly finished in 2024 was We Are Alone. Um, Followed immediately by its sequel, Nothing Beneath Us. After that, I was the pixel artist for Sandwalker, which is actually a game developed for a jam with a team of people. Um, from there, I made Nova Dark Fantasy Tactics for the Boss Rush Game Jam, which
cool.
is my favorite game I've made because it is very. It's different in the sense of how it's controlled. It's got an active time battle system as opposed to being turn based, and it's sort of a hybrid between Into the Breach and Final Fantasy IV. Um, then after that, I made Australian Gothic. That was a project that I initially started after finishing Nothing Beneath Us, um, and put it sort of shelved it. And then for the Mystery Game Jam, I saw the opportunity to remake it. It's definitely got more ideas than I had the time to implement in a month. So yeah, it's a game that's very close to my heart, but it's also my least favorite in the same vein, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, from there, I developed Dragon Squad, which is the game I did the best in any jam with. That was made in 9 days for the GDevelop Big Jam 7. That was, I actually came 38th in total.
Cool.
Interestingly, I did better for audio than I did for pixel art, which I'm
Mhm.
pretty stoked about. And then the last one was a bit of an experiment made for another jam, um, where I was sort of trying a different style and making it under an alias before. adding it to my account. So that is Gallows Rock, or Normal Adventure Game as it's titled, and I really wanted to experiment with rotoscoping and doing more fluid visuals, almost like what's seen in Faith.
Yeah.
So I kind of lost
Cool.
count of how many that was, but yeah. It's easier for me to like tell you what I've made than like go, actually, how many is that without checking?
Yeah. I'm looking at. I see 7
Yeah.
just on your itch page.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty impressive. When I think about this segment, I typically think that a developer probably wants to promote one of their games. But you, I think, are pretty interesting in that you've got all these games, and I'll try to highlight them. But are there any that you want to talk about specifically?
Yes, so specifically I'd like to focus on We Are Alone and Nothing Beneath Us. Those
Yeah.
are two halves of the same story, and that story is basically 2/3 complete. There was a final game that was going to be part of that series called You Are Alone. It didn't
Hmm.
quite end up panning out, but from that, I am working on making a massive We Are Alone game that includes the storylines from We Are Alone, Nothing Beneath Us, and the cancelled, well, not cancelled as such, but the started and not yet finished You Are Alone that didn't quite pan out for the last one.
Cool. Yeah. I haven't played them yet, so I guess you could kind of sell me on them. Give me how they're attached to each other, how this series all works together, and the kind of premise with no spoilers.
Just trying to work out how to do that because they are incredibly story based games.
Yeah.
The gameplay revolves around pointing and clicking.
Yeah.
With
Okay.
We Are Alone, Nothing Beneath Us, so they are both different takes of the game series. So with We Are Alone, it's very extrapolated. So it's following 3 separate characters from a third person omnipotent perspective.
ISEB is launching expeditions to seek out the origins of 3 unexplained signals. Endeavor was sent to investigate. Select signal to investigate.
And you make the choices. You select which of the signals they follow on the moon of Anubis. You decide who's being invested. Make choices as to who does certain game events until there's one that makes it to one of the 5 separate endings of that game. Where Nothing Beneath Us was a lot more focused. It was following the one character of Jake and his investigation of the second ship that came back from that mission 23 years later with no explanation.
Oh.
So, yeah, like We Are Alone, like I didn't have a game plan or a groundwork of how to make it. I sort of got inspired by a YouTuber making a what's the game series called again? An Oregon Trail type game, and that's sort of where the seed for that came from. Where with Nothing Beneath Us, I was more focused on honing in the story elements that I established from We Are Alone. So the different games, and there's definitely going to be a challenge on how I'm going to mold them both together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with the more focused storytelling of Nothing Beneath Us and the more omnipotent narrator-esque view that the player has of We Are Alone. That's going to be a challenge that I'm very excited for, and I think I've got a pretty workable solution for that with the upcoming project that I'm working on.
Let me kind of summarize here.
Sorry, I waffled, did I?
So you've got weird. What's that?
Sorry, I was waffling.
No, not at all. Not at all. I just, just to give you kind of where I feel like you're coming from. You've got We Are Alone. Both these games very science fiction based. So apparently you're a huge science fiction fan. We Are Alone has inspiration from Oregon Trail roots kind of survival game, takes place in outer space, and then from there you take it to the next evolution, which is Nothing Beneath Us, which I think has elements of the same premise, but you get deeper into the story in that one. Is that correct?
Yeah, the story is like the bigger focus of Nothing Beneath Us. I tried to make things a little more explicit while still not giving all the answers. The main premise of these two games, and soon the third chapter in the game that I'm working on, is if God is real, he doesn't care about us, and that's actually a good thing.
Interesting.
Sort of in a cosmic horror sense, when you talk about deities like Cthulhu or anything from H.P. Lovecraft,
Yeah.
the deities aren't necessarily malevolent in the sense that they're all evil and wish to and care not for our existence. They view us in the same way we would view ants being found in the kitchen. We wouldn't think much of
Yeah.
them. We wouldn't think much of them out in the bush somewhere, but when you find them in the kitchen, that's when you call the exterminator. And that's the premise that I took and ran with, that I started establishing in We Are Alone and really took and ran with Nothing Beneath Us. Ugh, with. This,
Yeah.
the idea is on a cosmic level, they're calling in the exterminator because we're at a point where they don't want us to be.
Interesting. Again, let me. You said a lot of really cool stuff there. So again, We Are Alone, establishes kind of survival and got an Oregon Trail feel. Then Nothing Beneath Us gets really in depth. You question a lot of philosophical ideas. You're inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. You really you want the game to really have the player take a look at these really deep existential ideas, and then with the next game it sounds like how does the next game again kind of fit into that puzzle?
The next game, what would be You Are Alone,
You are, yeah.
is basically the perspective of the last human left after the exterminators come.
Cool. Interesting. Cool. I don't know if you want to add more onto that, but I do have some more questions in that. It sounds like a big inspiration for you is H.P. Lovecraft, but this is super cool to kind of combine Lovecraft with science fiction. What are some other inspirations, like science fiction writers and things that inspire you?
It's interesting because it's not so much science fiction. It was definitely more cosmic horror, and it's less. It was less from a perspective of a desire to like build a cosmic horror game. It more came about from realizing that pixel art can only be so scary.
Yeah.
Pixel art can only be so scary. So, in order to use the medium to its best to leave something that's more existentially scary than actually oogity boogity. There's a monster there. Like I won't say this is an inspiration because it really wasn't, but it's something that resonated with me when I went and saw the Iron Lung movie. Like it's not like a scary movie in the sense that there's monsters and things. I mean, there are towards the end, but it's existentially scary when you think about the realities and how bleak the situation for humanity is in that environment. And I think that's where the strength of horror conveyed through pixel art really comes in. Like, it's like the inspirations, it's almost came in reverse. Like, once I knew what I was doing, I went out and sought more material. So, another book that I listened to was A Good Life by Jeremy Bixby, and that was the basis for Australian Gothic. And yeah, it's interesting. Like games like Night in the Woods tackle that in a way that's you wouldn't expect from the presentation, or you wouldn't expect from the presentation, but do a really good job of asking the big fundamental questions, I guess. on a smaller scale, mind you. So yeah, it's like the
Yeah.
inspirations came after,
Yeah.
if that makes sense, and it's a weird way of describing my process.
Cool. Yeah, no, I mean, it works apparently. These sound super in depth. I I want to shift gears a little bit here and talk a little bit about your background. Again, you said you've been doing pixel art since you were like 14 or something like that. Um, Apparently, at some point, you learned how to code.
No, I
And
use
how did it
GDevelop.
evolve into game?
I use GDevelop. It is a visual scripting language. It is
Hmm.
it's designed like an engine called Construct. It's very similar
Yeah,
in terms of that, but it's open source, and if you do pay for a premium subscription, it's a lot cheaper.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's no limit on what you can do gameplay wise. So it was basically about finding the right tool for the job for me. Like, I really tried to get into programming, and it just wasn't something that was computing for me. So,
yeah,
like, the development came when I finally found something that just clicked and worked for me, which was GDevelop.
yeah,
Like, I still use Piscal for my pixel art software. It is because that's what I found when I was 14 and I had no money and needed to use something for
yeah,
free. Now I can afford and use Acepro, but it's like I have been using the software for so long, I got very comfortable with it, and it was a matter of finding a game engine that could also fit that for me. Like Scratch
it,
has an upper limit of what you can do and what you can share and
yeah,
what you can create. GDevelop expands that quite a lot for me. I might grow out
hmm
of it, but at this stage, I am still learning. I'm sure I make games in the most inefficient way possible, and I'm sure there are so many better ways of doing everything that I try to achieve. But it's a matter of finding something that worked for me before I could actually get further. And yeah, that's a lot of trial and
yeah,
error.
yeah. Yeah, many years ago when I made my first game, I I started with a visual scripting tool for Unity called Playmaker. And I feel like you're echoing the same thoughts that I had at the same time. You're like, you're a good artist, you got vision, and you feel intimidated by programming and that evolving, but I guarantee you could learn how to code, no problem. Once you've got uh, once you're there and you want to do it, you'll learn it, no problem. One thing I'll say is that um, Unreal Engine, the blueprint coding is visual scripting as well, and I think that I think you'd probably take to that really easily.
I mean, potentially, but Unreal Engine isn't necessarily the tool that I'd use for what I want to make at this point. Um,
Yeah.
it's a powerful
And
tool.
I'm not telling you
Yeah,
to go there right now for sure.
it is a
Um,
powerful tool, and I would like to get into 3D modeling. That would sort of be my
mhm.
next play of like a skill set to add. But like I said, I'm doing this in my spare time. I am doing this, um, you know,
yeah,
when I have
yeah,
time to. So it's like I it's one thing at a time for me, I guess. Yeah.
yeah. No, like I totally understand, and everybody moves at their own pace. Like and kind of like the tools that you relate to and the tools that you feel comfortable with kind of set the style for your games. So those tools got like, I feel like developers that go too fast into all the entire realm of 3D and massive coding algorithms and stuff, their games can have too much. And your games, by that basic limitation, you're able to think about taking the tools that you have and those ways that you can get the story to tell the story beats that you need. When you mentioned earlier, you said it's really challenging to create a horror game out of pixel art, so that you're like, how can I do this? And you that really got you thinking. That's a really powerful tool, I think. So It's really cool.
Something I'd also like to talk about in regards to my process is I
Yeah,
am allergic to using placeholder art. My game is designed in my pixel art editor, and
interesting. That's cool.
built
Yeah,
from there. I work backwards with everything that I do,
yeah,
and I just sort of thought that that was a good springboard to jump off because it's like I do things backwards.
yeah. I uh, my background is in art originally, and then I moved to the tech side of things. There's an interesting process in drawing. When you try to get really fast, it's called direct drawing. A lot of drawing is going out into nature and drawing people and things, and a process called direct drawing is where you start with the eyebrows of somebody's face, and then you just draw everything down you completely draw their eyes fully, their nose. You work your way down the entire figure. um, and it doesn't have an underlying sketch. Your goal is to finish each part of the drawing, and it gets you working really fast. And I'd imagine, since you're not doing placeholder art, you're not doing these iterations, you're able to get these games out, really fast, and you solidify your process.
When they work.
Um,
when
yeah,
when they work, like it's also really prone to running into an issue that becomes insurmountable with the process because I've already made all this and now I've got something that I need to like adjust to it, and
hmm
it can
hmm
throw out like hours of work that you've done. So the graveyard of previous projects is very big from that. So it's
yeah,
fast when it works. It is, yeah, it is fast when it works, but it doesn't always work.
yeah,
For every game that you see of mine, there have been like 5 projects that have been started and not finished. But I feel like that's also true for anybody, regardless of process in indie dev.
yeah,
But like, if I feel like for me especially, it's like it hits me harder, especially
hmm
given how much work I've already put in before I have to scrap something.
yeah. What is your dream? Do you always want to keep this a side thing? Are you fully into games and you hope that this explodes into, your full-time job, or, do you even think about that?
We all hope our work explodes.
Yeah, yeah,
We all like to fancy ourselves as like the next insert popular game dev here, Scott Cawthon, Toby Fox. We all like to
yeah,
fancy ourselves as that, but realistically, that's
hmm
probably not going to be the story for everybody, and not for a lack of trying.
yeah,
So I would be lying if
hmm
I said I would love something to. I wouldn't want something to blow up and become really popular, because of course I would. But I'm also aware that that's not necessarily something that I can expect to happen, and like it's more beneficial to focus on the creative aspects of like actually making something that's
yeah.
worthwhile, making something that you're proud of and you're willing to shove in the face of every man, woman, child, and houseplant you talk to. Like it's about having something that you're proud to show at the end of the day. That's yeah, I guess that's the way I look at it. I would love for a game to blow up and for it to go on Steam and sell millions of copies and never have to work or make another game in my life. But realistically, I know that's not going to happen. But
I
it's
mean,
nice to dream.
like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. One of the things that I really think is good about this interview process is that when I came to your page, I wouldn't know that, we are alone and nothing beneath us are connected together. Um, it's really interesting to hear you explain the way that you made those games, the way they evolved together, and you've got another one in the works. Um, so I could definitely see you gaining like the this evolving into something with cult like following. So
Thank you.
uh, I wouldn't write it off at all. Um, yeah, I think we could kind of wrap things up there. I want to ask you if there's anything else you want to share with the audience or point them in a direction.
Um, Well, I suppose I could always spruce my Discord server. I am on it very occasionally.
Yeah.
I also host the Appleseed Game Jams. I've run two. They focus on creating games playable for macOS. And
Where can people find? I'll put a link to your Discord in the video, and then where can people find this jam?
well, there's no ones currently running, but there will be a third one coming up in the future when
Okay.
I've got something in the pipeline. So there will be another one. And it'll
And
be
the best way to
it'll be
find that,
it'll be in my
yeah.
Discord. I'll be putting in an announcement, and I'll also have it on my itch page when I'm ready for it.
Well, it was great talking to you,
Thank
Nick.
you.
Um,
Likewise.
I love your page, like your itch games, super cool, really interesting. Yeah, I love the idea of Lovecraft and science fiction. And yeah, links below.